The monitoring station floated in the darkness at the edge of the Talon Nebula, far from any inhabited world. Inside, Ziraketh sat at her sensor console, her 4 eyes scanning the displays with practiced efficiency. The graveyard shift was always quiet. Nothing ever happened out here in the empty spaces between stars. She was Velkari, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming purple under the dim blue lights. Her people were known throughout the galaxy for their precision and technical skill. That was why they got jobs like this, watching empty space for threats that never came. 47 years had passed since the Great War. 47 years of peace bought with human blood. Zira had never met a human. Nobody had, not anymore. They were gone. All of them. Dead at a place called the Crucible Gate. The stories said they held the line against the Devourers while everyone else escaped. They died so the galaxy could live. Heroes, every single one. The sensor array pinged. Zira's antennae twitched. She pulled up the reading, expecting another piece of ancient debris or a comet. Instead, her eyes widened. The energy signature was strange, powerful, and moving with clear purpose through the nebula. She ran it through the standard database. No match. She frowned and dug deeper, accessing historical records that went back decades. Her fingers moved quickly across the interface, pulling up older and older files. Then she found it. The signature matched a human quantum drive. Perfectly. Exactly. Zira sat back, her breathing quickening. That was impossible. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. There were no human ships left in the galaxy. They had all burned at the Crucible Gate, taking the Devourers with them into death. She checked her instruments 3 times. The readings were solid. Whatever was out there, it had a human power signature and it was active. Not debris. Not a ghost. Something real, something moving, something alive. Her supervisor's voice crackled over the comm. "Zira, report." "I'm seeing an anomaly on your board." "Yes, sir," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Unknown contact bearing 273 Mark 18. Energy signature is unusual." "Unusual how?" She hesitated. If she told him it matched human technology, he would think she was crazy. "It doesn't match anything in the current database, sir. I'm running deeper analysis." There was a pause. "Probably just sensor drift. Run a diagnostic and log it. If it persists, we'll report it in the morning." "Yes, sir." The comm clicked off. Zira stared at the screen. Sensor drift. He had dismissed it without even looking. But she knew her equipment. She had calibrated these sensors herself just 2 days ago. They were perfect. She pulled up the contact's trajectory and felt her breath catch. The ship, whatever it was heading toward the galactic core. More specifically, toward the forbidden sectors. The regions of space that had been quarantined after the war. No one was allowed there. Not even survey ships. The areas were too dangerous, too contaminated with devourer technology and dimensional rifts. Why would anything be going there? Zira made a decision. She copied all the sensor data to her personal drive, then began accessing the classified archives. Her security clearance was low, but she knew how to navigate the system. Years of working in monitoring stations taught you things. She searched for human military records. The files were old, heavily redacted, but they were there. She read about human ships, their names like poetry. Indomitable, defiant, unbroken. She read about their tactics, their refusal to retreat, their strange concept of duty that seemed stronger than survival itself. There were records of the final battle. Thousands of human ships forming a wall at the Crucible Gate. The Devourers pouring through from another dimension, endless and hungry. The other species evacuating, racing away while humanity stood alone. Admiral Chen's final transmission was there, preserved in a dozen languages. "We'll hold. We always hold. Get everyone out. Don't look back. Live well for all of us," and then silence. Every human ship lost. Every human life ended, or so the record said. Zira dug deeper. She found inconsistencies. Small things that didn't quite match. Ships reported destroyed in sectors they had never been deployed to. Timeline gaps in the final hours of battle. Transmission logs that ended too abruptly with no debris confirmed. Someone had edited these files. Someone had changed the official story. Her console beeped. A second contact, same signature. Then a third. All of them converging on the same point, deep in the forbidden sectors. All of them moving with purpose and coordination. Zira felt something shift inside her. The humans weren't dead. Some of them somehow had survived, and they were out there in the darkness doing something that required secrecy and coordination. She had to know the truth. She had to find them. But first, she needed to understand what she was dealing with. She pulled up every file she could access about human culture, human history, human warfare. She read through the night, learning about a species that should not exist anymore. They had come to the stars late, the records said. Younger than most species, less advanced. But they learned fast. They adapted. They fought with a creativity that bewildered their enemies and inspired their allies. When the devourers came, when even the ancient species felt fear, the humans had simply set their jaws and prepared for war. Never surrender, one human general had said. Not while we still draw breath. As dawn approached and her shift ended, Zira made her decision. She would find these ghost ships. She would learn what they were doing in the forbidden sectors. She would uncover the truth that someone had tried to bury. Whatever it cost, the galaxy needed to know that humanity's story wasn't finished. Zira spent 3 days gathering information before anyone noticed. She worked her shifts normally, but every spare moment was dedicated to the mystery of the human ships. The more she learned, the more questions emerged from the shadows of history. The restricted archives were deeper than she had imagined. She needed higher clearance, but she had a friend in the data management division. A favor traded for a favor, and suddenly she had access to files that made her blood run cold. Human military doctrine was fascinating and terrifying. They had concepts like acceptable losses and tactical sacrifice. They would trade their lives for strategic advantage without hesitation. But it wasn't mindless. Every sacrifice had purpose. Every loss bought something valuable for their allies. She found personal logs from other species. A Thracian medical officer who had served alongside humans wrote about a human medic named Rodriguez. During a surprise attack, Rodriguez had thrown herself over a wounded Thracian soldier, taking plasma fire meant for him. She survived barely, and her first words after waking were asking if the soldier was okay. Quintar Pilot's journal described learning tactics from Commander Hayes. Humans see patterns where we see chaos. The entry read, "They find opportunity in disaster. Hayes taught me that retreat isn't failure if you're choosing when and where to fight next." 3 months learning from her was worth years at our academy. These weren't just warriors. They were people. They had loved, laughed, created art and music. Zira found recordings of human songs strange and beautiful. They had painted pictures of their homeworld, a blue planet called Earth that no longer existed, consumed by the devourers in the early days of the war. But then she found the inconsistencies. The official timeline said humanity's final stand lasted 6 hours. But power readings from the Crucible Gate showed sustained human energy signatures for 3 days. The logs said all human ships were destroyed, but debris analysis was incomplete, covering less than 40% of the battle zone. Most damning, she found a classified communication from the Galactic Council, dated 1 week after humanity's supposed extinction. The message was heavily redacted, but fragments remained. Agreement reached. Continued operations. Information control necessary. Panic prevention. Someone had lied. The Council had lied. Zira was cross-referencing navigational data when her door chimed. She quickly closed the classified files and opened it. A Sildari stood in the corridor, tall crystalline skin refracting the light into rainbow patterns. He wore the dark uniform of Galactic Intelligence. His face was unreadable, as always with his species. "Ziraketh of the Velkari," he said, his voice smooth and cold. "I am Agent Thorn. May I come in?" It wasn't really a question. She stepped aside. Thorn entered, his eyes scanning her small quarters with professional efficiency. "You've been accessing restricted files. Human war records, why?" There was no point in lying. "I detected something. An energy signature that matches human technology. I wanted to understand what I found." "What you found was a sensor malfunction," Thorn said flatly. "Your supervisor already filed the report. The matter is closed." "It wasn't a malfunction. It was." His voice hardened. "And your curiosity ends now. The forbidden sectors are restricted for good reason. Devari contamination remains a threat. Dimensional instabilities could kill anyone who ventures too close. The area is dangerous and off-limits." Zira met his gaze. "And if there are human ships out there? Still fighting? Still alive?" For just a moment, something flickered in Thorn's expression. Surprise? Fear? It vanished instantly. Humans are extinct. They died heroes. Leave it at that. Why? Why should I leave it? Thorn stepped closer, and now his voice was soft, almost sad. Because sometimes, Ziraketh, the truth causes more harm than good. The galaxy is at peace. People feel safe. They honor humanity's sacrifice. Don't take that away from them. By forgetting humans might still be alive, still fighting while we sit in comfort. You don't understand the complexities involved. Thorn moved toward the door. Drop this investigation. Delete the files you've copied. Forget what you think you saw. That's an order from Galactic Intelligence. He left without waiting for a response. Zira stood alone in her quarters, anger and determination warring inside her. She looked at her console where the sensor data remained hidden in encrypted files, 3 human ships moving through the darkness toward the forbidden sectors. She had a choice: obey and forget, or risk everything for a truth that powerful people wanted buried. It took her less than a minute to decide. The station had small scout ships for emergency use. Zira had the authorization to sign one out for maintenance checks. She forged the logs, loaded supplies, and copied every file she had gathered onto the ship's computer. She launched at the end of her shift, when traffic was lightest. By the time anyone noticed she was gone, she would be halfway to the forbidden sectors. As her ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, tearing through space toward the unknown, she tried to calm her racing heart. She was throwing away her career, possibly her life. For what? For people she had never met, who might not even be real. But she couldn't ignore what she had found. Someone had to know the truth. 2 days into the journey, her comm system crackled with a fragmentary transmission. It was badly degraded, breaking up across light years of distance. But one word came through clearly, spoken in the human language called English: perimeter holding. Generators at 60%. Rotation cycle maintaining. They still don't know. A woman's voice, tired but steady. Alive. Zira gripped the controls tighter and pushed her ship faster. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, humans were still fighting, still holding some kind of line against some kind of threat. And the galaxy had left them there alone, for 47 years. She wondered what she would find at the Crucible Gate. She wondered if the humans would be happy to see her, or angry that their secret was discovered. She wondered if she would survive the journey, but mostly, she wondered how the galaxy could call itself civilized while forgetting the people still dying to protect it. The ship flew on through the void, carrying one young alien toward a truth that would shake everything she knew. The edge of the forbidden sectors looked like the end of the universe. Zira's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and she gasped at what her sensors showed. Space itself was broken here. Debris fields stretched in every direction, so vast they had their own gravity. Dead ships, thousands of them, twisted metal and shattered hulls floating in eternal silence. Some were human designs, others belonged to species she recognized, and some were the nightmare shapes of devourer vessels, organic and mechanical fused together in ways that hurt to look at. Planets hung lifeless in the distance, their surfaces scarred with weapons fire. One world had been cracked in half, its core exposed and cold. Energy anomalies rippled through space like wounds that wouldn't heal. This was where the galaxy had nearly died. This was where humanity had made its stand. Zira's sensors picked up the human ship immediately. It was massive, a dreadnought-class vessel over 2 kilometers long. Its hull was scarred with battle damage, patched and repaired so many times it looked like a quilt of different metals. Weapon ports lined its sides. At the bow, barely visible beneath carbon scoring, she could read the name painted in white letters. HFY Indomitable. It was positioned near a massive spatial anomaly, a tear in reality that pulsed with sickly light. The ship was holding station there, weapons ready like a guard dog that never slept, her comm system activated. A voice spoke in heavily accented Galactic Standard. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Sarah Reeves of the United Human Space Vessel Indomitable. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Zira's hands shook as she activated her transmitter. This is Ziraketh of the Velkari. I'm alone. I detected your ship and came to investigate. I had to know if humans were still alive. There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, softer. You came alone? All this way? That was either very brave or very foolish. Stand by for docking coordinates. We should talk face to face. The Indomitable was even more impressive up close. Its launch bay was large enough to hold 50 ships like hers. As she landed, she saw human crew members moving with practiced efficiency. They wore uniforms that looked old and repaired many times. There were so few of them. Commander Reeves was waiting at the airlock. She was in her 70s, gray hair tied back, her face lined with decades of stress and duty. But her eyes were sharp and kind. She extended her hand in the human greeting Zira had read about. "Welcome aboard, Ziraketh. I won't lie and say we expected you, but we're not entirely surprised either. Someone was bound to find us eventually." Zira shook the offered hand, marveling at how warm human skin was. "How many of you are there?" "On this ship?" 47. "Across the fleet?" Reeves smiled sadly. "About 200 last count. Spread across 12 ships, down from 10,000. The numbers hit Zira like a physical blow. 200 humans left in the entire galaxy. The records say you all died here. 47 years ago. "We did die here," Reeves said, leading her through corridors that hummed with old machinery. "We just didn't stop fighting." She brought Zira to the bridge. The view screen showed the spatial anomaly in horrible detail. It looked like a wound in space, and through it, Zira could see things moving. Dark shapes that defied geometry. Devourers. "That's the Crucible Gate," Reeves explained. "A permanent breach between our dimension and theirs. We sealed it, or tried to. Built a barrier using every ounce of power we had. It worked, mostly. Mostly? Every few years it weakens. The Devourers push from the other side. They get through in small numbers, and we push them back. We repair the seal. We hold the line." A younger human at the weapons console spoke up. Her name tag read Chen. "We've been doing this for 47 years. Generation after generation. Some of us were born on these ships." Zira felt sick. "The galaxy knows." "The council?" Reeves nodded. "They know. They agreed it was better this way. If people knew the Devourers weren't truly defeated, there would be panic, chaos. Probably wars as species tried to flee or hoard resources. So they made a deal with us. We stay here, we keep fighting, and they tell everyone we died heroically. Clean ending. Everyone gets to move on." "That's not right," Zira whispered. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Reeves laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, it's not fair. But it's necessary, or it was. We volunteered for this, Zira. Every human here knew what they were signing up for. We hold the line so others can live in peace. That's enough for us. But you've been forgotten. You've been dying alone out here while the galaxy celebrates your sacrifice without knowing you're still sacrificing." "Yes." Reeves looked at the view screen, at the horror beyond the seal. "And we'd do it again. That's what humans do. We hold. We always hold." An alarm blared. Every human on the bridge moved instantly. No panic, just smooth professionalism born from decades of practice. "Seal integrity dropping," Chen called out. "Dimensional pressure spiking." Reeves moved to the command chair. "How bad?" "Bad, Commander. This is ahead of schedule. Something's different this time." On the screen, Zira watched the spatial anomaly pulse and expand. The shapes on the other side grew clearer, larger, more numerous. "They're coming through," Chen said. "Multiple contacts, dozens. This isn't a probe. This is a full incursion." Reeves hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands battle stations. Contact the fleet. Tell them we have a breach event Category 5. She turned to Zira. "You need to leave now. Get back to civilized space." "What's happening?" "The seal is failing. It happens every few years, but never this badly. We can fight them off, repair it again, but..." Reeves hesitated. "This feels different, stronger." Other ships appeared on the sensors. 11 more human vessels, all as scarred and worn as the Indomitable. They formed a defensive line in front of the breach. 200 humans against an army of nightmares. Zira watched the ships take position. They moved with perfect coordination, a dance they had performed 100 times before. These people had spent their entire adult lives, some their entire lives period, fighting a secret war the galaxy didn't even know was happening. "How long can you hold?" she asked. Reeves met her eyes. "As long as we have to. That's what we do." "But Zira, if this is really the big push, if the seal is failing permanently, 12 ships won't be enough." "Then I'll go back. I'll tell them. I'll make them listen. They won't want to. The council will try to silence you." "Let them try." Zira felt anger burning in her chest. "The galaxy needs to know you're still here, still fighting, still dying for them." Reeves smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "Then go, fast as you can. Tell them we're still here. Tell them we need help." She paused, and her voice grew softer. "And tell them we're not done fighting. We never are." Zira ran for her ship. As she launched, she looked back at the human fleet. 12 small ships against the darkness, holding the line. Always holding the line. She pushed her engines to maximum and jumped to faster than light speed. Behind her, in the shadows of the Crucible Gate, humanity fought alone one more time. But not for much longer. Not if she had anything to say about it. Zira didn't wait for permission. She didn't go through official channels. She took every piece of evidence she had, every recording, every sensor log, every image of the human fleet, and she broadcast it on every open frequency she could access. Within hours, it had spread across 1,000 worlds. The response was immediate and overwhelming. News networks picked it up. Social feeds exploded with debate. Governments tried to contain it, but you couldn't stop information once it was free. The galaxy learned that humanity hadn't died. They were still fighting, still bleeding, still holding back the nightmare for 47 years, while everyone else lived in comfortable ignorance. Some people refused to believe it. They called it a hoax, propaganda, attention-seeking. But Zira had the proof. The sensor data couldn't be faked. The recordings of Commander Reeves speaking were real. And when technical experts analyzed the footage, they confirmed everything. The human ships were real. The Devourer threat was real. The galaxy had been lied to. Zira found herself at the center of a storm. Her face was on every screen. Some called her a hero. Others called her a traitor for revealing classified information. She didn't care about either label. She only cared that people knew the truth. 3 days after her broadcast, the Galactic Council issued a mandatory summons. She was to appear before them and explain her actions. It was phrased as a request, but everyone understood it as an order. The council chamber was ancient and grand, located on the neutral station at the Galactic Center. Representatives from 200 species sat in circular tiers, looking down at the speaker's platform where Zira stood. She felt small and alone under their collective gaze. The council speaker, an elderly Thracian with silver fur, spoke first. His voice was heavy with disappointment. Zira Keth of the Velkari, you have violated countless laws and security protocols. You have endangered galactic stability. What do you have to say for yourself? Zira looked up at the assembled representatives. I have to say that humans are still alive, still fighting, still dying, and we forgot them. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The decision to classify human operations was made for the greater good, another council member said, a Quintar female, her feathers ruffled with agitation. Panic would have destabilized the recovering galaxy. So we let them fight alone? Zira's voice grew stronger. We let them die in silence so we could feel safe. They volunteered, the Quintar shot back. The agreement was mutual. An agreement made while everyone was terrified and desperate. An agreement that's lasted 47 years. Did anyone ever think to relieve them? To send help? Or were they just convenient, fighting our war so we didn't have to? The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates defended the council's decision. Others demanded answers. The noise grew deafening until the speaker called for order. Then an old Thracian stepped forward from the gallery. He was ancient, his fur white with age, and he walked with a cane. But his voice carried clearly. I am Kreltok, former medical officer of the Alliance fleet. I served with humans during the war. He turned to address the entire chamber. I was wounded at the Battle of Sigma Station, dying. A human medic named Rodriguez dragged me to safety through enemy fire. She took plasma burns meant for me. She lived barely, and her first concern was for my welfare. He looked directly at the council. I owe her my life. My children owe their existence to her sacrifice. And you're telling me we abandoned her people? We let them fight alone for half a century, while we built monuments to their supposed death? The chamber fell silent. Another voice rose from the gallery. A young Quintar admiral in crisp uniform. I studied human tactics at the academy. Commander Hayes' strategies are required reading for every officer. We learn from their example. We celebrate their genius, and they're still out there, still fighting, and we did nothing. More voices joined. A Velkari scientist who had worked with human researchers. A Sildari pilot whose grandmother fought alongside human wingmates. One by one, people stood and shared their connections to humanity. The tide was turning. Agent Thorne appeared at the chamber entrance. Zira tensed, expecting him to argue for continued secrecy. Instead, he walked to the speaker's platform and stood beside her. I'm Agent Thorne, Galactic Intelligence, he said. I've been part of the information suppression effort for 20 years. I'm here to resign and to testify that everything Ziraketh says is true. I've seen the reports. I've read the classified files. Every year we receive updates from the human fleet. Every year we file them away and do nothing. He looked at Zira, and something like respect showed in his crystalline features. I thought I was protecting the galaxy. I was wrong. This isn't protection. It's betrayal. The council speaker raised his hands for silence. The question before us is not whether the humans are still fighting. Clearly they are. The question is what we do now. A pragmatist delegate stood. What can we do? Our military strength is a fraction of what it was during the war. We've focused on rebuilding, not fighting. Even if we wanted to help, we lack the resources. Then we build those resources, the young Quintar admiral said. We mobilize. We prepare. That will take months, perhaps years. Then we start now. The debate raged for hours. Zira stood through all of it, answering questions, providing evidence, refusing to back down. Finally, as the station's artificial sun set outside the massive windows, the council called for a vote. All those in favor of organizing a relief force to aid human operations at the Crucible Gate? Hands rose across the chamber. Not all of them. Some delegates still argued it was too risky, too expensive, too complicated. But the majority voted yes. The galaxy would help, finally. But as Zira left the chamber, she received an urgent message on her personal device. It was from Commander Reeves, and it was marked Priority Emergency. SEAL has failed catastrophically. Full breach. Devourers pouring through. We're making our stand. If help is coming, it needs to be now. We'll hold as long as we can. Reeves out, Zira's blood went cold. The message was hours old, delayed by the distance. By now, the battle had been raging for who knew how long. The relief force the council had just approved would take weeks to organize and mobilize. The humans didn't have weeks. They might not even have days. She ran through the station corridors to the docking bay where her ship waited. A voice called after her. Zira, wait! It was Thorn running to catch up. Behind him came the young Quintar admiral and several other officers. The main fleet will take too long, Thorn said, but we can go now. A fast strike force. Buy time until the real help arrives. How many ships can you gather? Zira asked. 50 maybe, volunteers, it won't be enough. It's more than they have right now. Zira looked at the group of officers who had followed Thorn. Different species, different backgrounds, all united by one thing. They had learned from humans. They had been inspired by humans, and they refused to let humans die alone. Then we go now, she said. We hold the line until the cavalry arrives. Thorn smiled grimly. Very human of you. They launched within the hour, 50 ships racing toward the forbidden sectors at maximum speed. As they flew, Zira thought about Commander Reeves and the 200 humans fighting impossible odds. Hold on, she thought. Please hold on. We're coming. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel into chaos and death. The Crucible Gate had torn wide open, a wound in reality kilometers across. Devourers poured through in endless waves. They were nightmares made solid, biomechanical horrors that defied natural law. Some were small, fast, like metallic insects the size of fighters. Others were massive, living ships with weapons grown from their own flesh. The human fleet was scattered across the battlefield, 12 ships against thousands of enemies. The Indomitable was at the center, its hull breached in a dozen places, trailing atmosphere and debris. But its weapons never stopped firing. Zira's comm crackled with overlapping transmissions. Human voices calm despite the hell around them, coordinating their desperate defense. Chen, cover the Defiance port side. They've lost shields. Indomitable actual. We're venting atmosphere on decks 7 through 12. Someone get those fighters off the Unbroken. Her engines are critical. All ships focus fire on the big one. The really big one. Zira activated her comm on the human frequency. Commander Reeves, this is Ziraketh. We're here. 50 ships ready to fight. There was a pause. Then Reeves's voice came through, strained but still strong. Zira, you beautiful crazy alien? Welcome to the party. We could use the help. The 50 ships spread out, joining the battle. Zira's tactical display lit up with target markers. Too many. They were still hopelessly outnumbered, but they were here, and they would fight. The Quintar admiral took command of the Allied forces. All ships Delta formation. We're buying the humans time to regroup. Use their tactical database, it's being shared on the fleet network now. Zira accessed the database. It was full of human strategies, tricks they had learned over 47 years of fighting devourers, weaknesses in the creature's biology, optimal weapons configurations, formation patterns that maximized defensive fire. She followed the instructions, feeling her ship respond to the old human doctrine. Around her, the other allied ships did the same. They moved with coordination they hadn't possessed minutes before, fighting like humans taught them. A massive devourer, big as a moon, pushed through the breach. Its weapons tore through two allied ships before they could react. Zira watched the Valkyrie destroyer explode, lives ended in a flash of light. All ships converge on the Leviathan, Reeves ordered. Hit it with everything. Now they did. 50 allied ships and 12 human vessels poured fire into the creature. Its armor cracked, its weapons faltered. But it kept coming, kept fighting. Impossible to kill. The Indomitable turned, placing itself between the Leviathan and the smaller ships. Its main cannon, a weapon that looked older than some civilizations, charged with barely contained power. This is Reeves. Indomitable firing main weapon. Everyone clear the targeting line. The cannon fired. Space itself seemed to split. The beam of concentrated energy hit the Leviathan dead center and burned through. The creature convulsed, its organic components dying, its mechanical parts failing. It began to drift, leaking fluids and atmosphere, dead at last, but the cost was high. The Indomitable had used its emergency reserves for that shot. Its power levels dropped critically, and more devourers were coming through. Zira pushed her ship to the Indomitable's side. Commander, you need to fall back, repair. Can't. Someone has to hold the breach or they'll spread across the galaxy. Then we hold it together. The battle raged. Ships died on both sides. Brave crew members in both human and alien vessels gave their lives to buy minutes, seconds. The Allied force was being ground down, but they refused to break. On her screen, Zira saw the Indomitable taking hit after hit. Its hull was more hull than ship now. It was dying. Commander Reeves, your ship is critical. Evacuate. Negative. Reeves's voice was calm. We always knew this was one way, Zira. But you came back. You brought help. That changes everything. What are you doing? What humans do. We hold the line. Zira watched in horror as the Indomitable turned toward the breach, toward the center of the dimensional tear. The ship accelerated, pushing past its structural limits. All ships, this is Commander Sarah Reeves, UHSV Indomitable. It's been an honor serving with you. To the relief force, thank you for coming. To my crew, I'm proud of every one of you. She paused. And to the galaxy, remember this. Humans hold. We always hold. The Indomitable flew into the breach. At the last second, Reeves detonated the ship's reactor. The explosion was massive, a new star born and dying in the span of seconds. The energy wave tore through the dimensional tear, destabilizing the structure that held it open. The breach began to collapse. Devourers still in the gateway were caught in the implosion, pulled back into their dimension or torn apart by the forces. The massive tear shrank meter by meter until it sealed with a flash of light. The crucible gate was closed. Silence fell across the battlefield. The surviving ships drifted, crews exhausted, damaged but alive. Then Zira's sensors picked up new contacts. Hundreds of them, thousands. The Galactic Relief Fleet had arrived. 10,000 ships from every species, the largest armada assembled since the original Devourer War. They spread across the sector, securing the area, sending rescue teams to damaged vessels. Zira helped coordinate the rescue efforts. They found survivors on the remaining human ships. 3 vessels had survived in fighting condition. 47 humans still lived. Out of the 200 who had been here, the rest had died holding the line one final time. The relief fleet established a permanent garrison at the Crucible Gate. New technology, developed in the decades since the war, was deployed to seal the breach permanently. Monitoring stations went up. Defense platforms. Humanity's long vigil was finally over. 6 months later, Zira stood at the dedication of the memorial. It was built at the Crucible Gate, visible from every ship in the sector. It was beautiful and terrible, showing human ships standing against the darkness. Representatives from every species attended. The survivors of the human fleet were there, honored guests. They looked strange in clean uniforms, unused to ceremony after so many years of pure survival. The inscription on the memorial was written in hundreds of languages. But at the center, in English, it read simply, "They held. We remember. We endure." A young human child born on one of the surviving ships tugged at Zira's sleeve. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, and she looked up at Zira with curious eyes. "What were humans like?" the girl asked. "Before we were forgotten?" Zira knelt down to the child's level. She thought about Commander Reeves, about Rodriguez the medic, about all the humans who had fought and died in silence. She thought about their impossible determination, their refusal to surrender, their strange idea that duty mattered more than survival. "They were heroes," Zira said. "They still are, and they taught us what it really means to hold the line." The child smiled and ran off to play with other children, human children, growing up in a galaxy that knew they existed, that remembered them, that would never forget again. Zira looked at the memorial, at the names carved into its surface. Thousands of names. Reeves was there, along with Chen and all the others who had died in the final battle. The galaxy owed humanity a debt that could never be repaid. But they would try. The surviving humans had been offered anything they wanted. They chose to rebuild, to have children, to live, and the galaxy helped. Thousands of young aliens volunteered to support the effort, paying forward the debt humanity was owed. Zira was among them. She had given up her old job to work with the human survivors, helping them adjust to peace after 47 years of war. It was the least she could do. As the dedication ceremony ended and people began to leave, Zira stayed at the memorial a moment longer. She placed her hand on the wall, feeling the carved letters of Reeves's name. "We'll remember," she whispered. "We promise. Never again will you fight alone." The stars shone down on the crucible gate, peaceful and beautiful, and somewhere in the darkness she imagined she could hear a voice, tired but satisfied. "Good, now go live well, for all of us."